Alright, so wife set her cell phone down while the camera was still turned on and the battery died. So we gotta had to break this into two different segments. So this being the second segment, we're picking up where we left off earlier. Left it off with cooling. We've been cooling for about an hour. We're now at 162 on the way to 150. And if you didn't think this was thick before, I'm not touching the whisk. It is thick. It's almost a mashed potato looking kind of mess right now. But that's all going to get broken up here in a little bit. But while it's doing this, you don't just want to let it sit. You still want to keep stirring it.
It releases
Otherwise, the heat's going to get trapped in the bottom, and you're going to sit there and look at it. It's going to get a skin on top. And
then it takes 5 hours to cool.
It takes forever. So let your whisk stand in it for a couple of minutes. Drink a beer, smoke a cigarette, come back to it, stir it some more until we get down to 150. And when we get down to 150, we'll be back. Alrighty then. So we've been cooling and stirring. We reached 150, and with stirring, we're now at 148, which is all right. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to put amylase enzyme in here to break the starches into sugars that the yeasty beasties are going to eat. And hopefully, about a week or so down the road, we're going to have a pot full of booze to put in a distill.
3 teaspoons.
Into a distiller. We're using 3 teaspoons of this stuff.
Tell them why we're using 3 teaspoons.
Well, we watched somebody else, and he was using tablespoons and an insane amount.
It's not cheap.
On a bigger batch than this, but
we read the package.
Read the directions, and it works just fine. So we use teaspoons, not tablespoons.
He also steeped his overnight.
Yeah, he did.
That's a no-no. Tell him what we read.
But what we found out in research and reading and whatnot is the enzyme itself only works for what, 3 minutes or something?
60 seconds, it's ready.
Okay, 60 seconds.
But we let it cool down to 120 for our yeast.
Right. So we let it sit and
keep stirring.
Make sure it's all worked in there.
It's getting looser, isn't it?
And you can already see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
Spoon won't stand up.
No.
We actually had to switch to the spoon. The mash got so thick. Remember I stood it up in the mash. Well, it got so thick that the
whisk was no bueno.
Was not working so great anymore, and it was just pushing around and not sifting. So switch to the nasty spoon that we don't like, but we use it because we got it. And mix this around for a little while, let it loosen up, let it cool down some more.
And then we'll check the sugars.
And we will check the sugars
with our refractometer
as we get closer to 120. Well, actually probably more like 140, because we're going to put a few drops of the juice on a refractometer, and then we're going to read the brick scale so that we can measure the sugars.
To see if we have to add sugar.
And when we look through the refractometer, the line across the little view circle should, in what I've seen so far, on a mash, without any sugars, come out somewhere between a 8 and a 12. 12's about the best we've gotten with enzymes and our mash. But when you cook it up, you want to add a little bit of sugar and keep checking your sugar, because you don't want to go past a 22 on the bricks, because then it's just too much and the yeast can't handle it and nothing happens.
And our first one that got the 12 is that one right over there.
And it's still going along so well that you still can't see through the glass. So we're just letting it do its thing. And if you saw the earlier videos, there was Frankenstein. We called it Frankenstein. We have since renamed it to Franken Mash.
Franken Mash.
And if she can get a good picture of it, you can see
the
bubbles running.
just bubbled.
that thing has turned into a beast of fermentation, and again, don't know what's going to happen, but we'll all keep an eye on it and see what does. So at this time, I'm going to stir a little bit more. We're going to let our temperature come down some more, and then we'll be back. All right. So we're at about 144, and we're cooling at a decent pace. We got our amylase in there. It's broken things up pretty good. This is our first 100% corn mash, and we got a different reading on the refractometer.
We were at a 7.
Refractometer, Amazon, and when we read it this time, it actually came out to a 7. We normally get about an 8 to a 12, depending on what's in the mix. But straight corn apparently is a little less sugar. So, yeah, that's what the refractometer does. It measures the sugar in your liquid.
Science.
Science. And what we're going to do in order to make a nice soup for our fermentation, we're going to add about a pound of sugar per gallon.
Oh, it went away. Damn, it said 4.
Yeah, so
Tell them why we did 4.
4 pounds. We normally do about a pound at a time and take a reading and watch it go up. But over our various batches, we have found that it's about a pound per gallon that's in your pot. And based on where you're at, do the math. I can't do math. She does math, not me. With 4 gallons at a 7, we will bring this up to right around the 20 to just under a 22. So we're going to do 4 pounds sugar, and I like to stir it while it's warm. Helps dissolve the sugar, get it in the solution, and you let it get all worked in while it's cooling, because once we get to 120, we're going to do something different.
And yes, just so everybody knows, the dogs are, yes, playing again. So that is the noise in the background. All right, put the sugar in, baby.
So here we go. Sugar.
4 pounds.
4 pounds. Blurb, 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 as it sinks into there. And then just stir, stir, stir. And just like making iced tea, it's easier to mix in the sugar while the water's warm. If you stir it in, you get much cooler. It's going to take longer to dissolve.
You want your whisk back?
Yeah, we've thinned out. Let's go back to the whisk. Alright. So, there we go. And then we're just going to keep moving it around. Get everything worked, dissolved in there. And the kernels and everything that's in there also work to help agitate, get everything mixed together. Just gotta keep it moving at this point. And if you're like me, you have to be a little careful. Because if you get too enthusiastic and you slop on your wife's stove, you get hit with a towel.
He slops it everywhere.
So, keep it moving, let it cool, let it mix, and we'll be back when we get to 120. Whoops, hey, quickie, forgot to test it. So, jar off a little
Try not to get kernels in it.
little of the fluid here. Of course, it's all fun and games until the kernels block the little needle, but get yourself a couple of drops, smear it on the glass, close the cover, take off your glasses if you're blind. And right now, after 4 pounds, just went in, we're reading a 15. So we doubled our sugars and a little bit more.
15?
And from having done this before, you gotta wait for it all to dissolve, because there's some at the bottom, there's some that's not washed in.
So he says. We'll probably end in
We'll
like
take
another 2
reading,
pounds.
and we may end up adding a little bit more sugar to get it closer to that 20. But right
Oy
now,
vey, knock it off!
guys, come on, give me a break. Yes,
So,
I love you too. Anyway,
we'll be back.
we will be back, and we'll take another reading, and we're searching for that 120. All right, so as we were going, we watched our sugar, and it kind of jumped up to a 17. Still not quite where we wanted, so we added a little bit more sugar.
2 pounds. Oops.
And when we took the reading, it had shot up to a 25 on the bricks. It's a little too hot for what we're trying to do. So, then we realized we left out something else. We use about a cup per gallon of water, 1 to help cool,
Ice cold water.
and 2 to replace what boils off while you're cooking the mash. Well, not technically boils off. It's more like
Steams off.
simmer, or as if you watch Food Network or something like that, they call it reduction. No, okay, technical chefy shit. Anyway, you heat up water, it evaporates. So we replace our lost water, hope it cool, and when we put our 4 cups in that we forgot, guess what? Ding, ding, ding. Right at 22. Right
Hey.
what we were shooting for in the first place. So, yeah. A little bit different, but
We
still
messed
got
up a
there.
lot.
And we are still at 129. And we are shooting for 120. And we'll probably wait till 119. And then we're going to transfer this into its fermenting jug.
Final resting place over there on the counter.
Well,
Oh, not final resting place. We don't want it to die.
no, exactly. So, but when we get to 119, then we're going to add some yeast nutrient. And I've seen where people use raisins or whatever.
That didn't work. We tried it.
Didn't work. So we're going to add some nutrient before we pitch the yeast. But what we're going to do is we're going to put the nutrient in when we get down to 119. We're going to stir it. Then we're going to transfer it. And then we'll pitch the yeast. Everybody say hi to my father. He's a bad boy.
I don't think they saw him.
Oh, well. Okay. Oh, he's I don't know what he's doing right now. He's getting in the fridge. He's probably getting something to drink. Anyway, we'll be back at 119. All right. So, whoops.
You spilled it,
I'm gonna
Ronald.
get slapped with a towel. All right. As we sit at about 123, not quite at 120, not ready to do much yet. Thought of a couple of things that
Pertinent information.
pertinent information. So, when we transfer from this to our container, big container, a big 5-gallon container, we use a $10 jug? Is that what
It's
it
a
is?
$10 jug from the Walmart.
Walmart.
And tell them why we do that.
And we do that because,
First of all, it has a spigot.
1, it has a spigot, but 2, if you look at the food grade buckets with spigots on Amazon or whatever, they're going to cost you, what, $45?
Like $40.
$45 or something. We got one before we started looking around.
Yeah,
It's a
and it
rubber
doesn't
blanket,
have a spigot.
and it doesn't have a spigot, and we paid, I want to say, $35 for it.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. So, yeah, it comes from a brewing company or whatever, and it's for home brewing and distilling or whatever, but
The lid doesn't fit for
My-
one.
well, yeah, the lid didn't fit when it came, did it?
No, it did not fit.
So that sucked. Anyway,
So